And go.
Okay, welcome back. Episode 6, the Eric Bledsoe episode. We're glad to have you. MLB, finally the hot stove's heating up. Wisconsin basketball sitting atop the Big Ten rankings with a big one on Saturday. Nick Saban retires out of nowhere. 7 NFL vacancies we got to hit. And finally, after 18 long weeks, NFL playoffs are here.
Before
Let's
we
get
begin,
rolling.
this episode is brought to you by Insect Hobby Design Co. Insect Hobby Design Co. has over 20 years of expertise in branding, design, illustration, and web development. Insect Hobby Design Co. brings a wealth of experience to the table. Whether you're a small business aiming for a standout identity or a nonprofit aiming for profit enterprise seeking impactful visuals, their team is here to elevate your brand with precision and creativity. To learn more, go to insecthobby.com.
All right, getting into it. Major League Baseball. A little bit of a shocking trade went down this afternoon. Michael Busch to the Cubs, along with a pitcher for Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris. I don't know what this tells. I feel like the Dodgers kind of given up on Michael Busch. Like that's kind of what this deal tells me.
I feel like this kind of pairs with the Teoscar deal that was just handed out with the Dodgers. As I was scrolling through Twitter today and I saw some mention that Michael Busch might be a positionless player with a big bat, but the Dodgers have those guys. They have guys to fill all the positions of need. So it was kind of an odd man out situation, and the Dodgers are always looking for more arms.
Yeah, I know he's got a lot of strikeouts in that bat, but I hate having to play against him in the Cubs because he's a guy I wanted the Brewers trade for a few years now. So is what it is. But hey, the Cubs are doing something. They
Yes,
must
they
be
are.
listening to the pod.
They finally did it.
And on top of that, they signed Shoto Imananga, a left-hand pitcher from Japan. 4 years, $53 million. To be honest, I don't know a ton about him. I know he's got an electric fastball, but it seems like he projects as more of a 3 or a 4 in a decent rotation.
But we all know that the Cubs like to spend on rotation pieces with a lot of question marks. I mean, they did it last year with Jamison Tyone. They're going to keep doing it. They lost Marcus Stroman. It doesn't seem like they want him back. So, I mean, they're trying to beef up a rotation that isn't really the greatest. And this is a very questionable contract, 4 years, $53 million. But it seems like they like to throw out questionable contracts to back end starters. So not out of the ordinary.
This is a questionable contract, and Council's still going to throw him out there every time against the Brewers. He's a lefty. Brewers struggle hitting lefties, and he's just going to shove it every time. It's going to be similar to Jose Quintana a few years ago, where he's mediocre at best against other teams, but every time he faces the Brewers, he's just going to shove it.
Yeah, but if Counts stays true to himself, we're only going to see him for 5 innings, and then he's going to ride a bullpen that.
Which, if he wants to do that, let him do that.
I mean,
my guess.
If Council knows the Brewers, he'd just throw out every single lefty ever. Like, you go steal Amanga, and then you just ride the rest of the game. But, I mean, we know Council.
The Mets give Harrison Bader a 1-year, $10.5 million deal. Get your bag, Bader. But I don't like the fit necessarily with the Mets. I know he was a college teammate of Pete Alonso, so maybe this was a keep Pete happy deal, but get your bag, bud.
Get your bag.
Were those two on the same Northwoods team?
No,
Florida.
No, they were at the Gators together.
Didn't Bader also play in the Northwoods too? I know Alonso did, but Bader lived with the Councils and he played for the Chinooks. That's what it is. Yeah,
that's
interesting.
They'd always make a big deal about that when the Cardinals played the Brewers.
That's interesting.
The more you know.
And then the last one, Teoscar Hernandez to the Dodgers. 1 year, $23.5 million. the Dodgers are handing out money like it's going out of style.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing how Teoscar performed in Seattle last year, 23.5 million is a hard pill to swallow. I mean, I know he has those deferments in his contract, but it's even when you take the deferment out of the contract, that's still like $16 million to the strikeout leader. And it's like they're just throwing money at the top names in free agency and they're trying to fit pieces in a puzzle that they don't know if it's going to work. But obviously, when you throw out money, it is going to have to click at some point.
Well, his home and road splits were like drastically different in Seattle. Like he was awful at home last year, and he was above average plus on the road. So I could see why the Dodgers might want to take a flyer, a cheap flyer, I guess, at 23.5 mil on Teoscar. Is he worth the money? In my opinion, probably not. But being able to circumvent and be able to defer all that money down the road, I don't hate
Yeah,
this, but
but
it
that's
doesn't
my
really move the
issue.
needle.
It's a 1-year deal that you're deferring 8.5 million of it over 9 years. Like at some point, Major League Baseball needs to take a look at how when you can defer money, because there's no way on a 1-year deal you should be able to defer this much of it or any of it, frankly. Like,
Oh, absolutely. There needs to be some sort of just like year cap on like, hey, once it gets to a 5+, like then you can start doing like this percentage of that contract. But I still feel like a chunk of the contract needs to still be like paid out during the time that they're actually playing with that team. Yeah, deferments are nice, but it is definitely frustrating on the outside looking in. And I know the Brewers have benefited in the past with these deferments, but it's usually a percentage of that contract being deferred down the line versus what the Dodgers are doing with Teoscar and the main one in Shohei.
yeah, we know Yelich has deferments, and I believe Braun does as well.
Yes, he
Yes, he
does.
does.
So, yes, the Brewers have benefited, but
It's
no
also
team has
what,
ever spent
90% of his contract going down the line.
yeah, nobody's ever spent over $1 billion in free agency and deferred 800 million of it.
It's just stupid.
Speaking of the Brewers settle with a few guys today. Hobie Milner, $2.05 million. I think he's worth
Worth
it.
every penny. Worth every penny. He is one of the more quality relievers that just go unsung. He shows up, he gets his guys out, he's effective versus both sides, and he's almost reinvented himself more and more as he's been with the Brewers. And I really like this settlement with the Brewers going forward for him.
He's a guy where if you don't watch NL Central Baseball, you have no idea who he is. But he just gets his job done, and it's awesome. And he's always ready.
I mean, us four knew who he was before the bulk of Brewers fans knew who he was, thanks to the Brewers Baseball Academy. Shout out Hobie with the great stories. But yeah, I mean, just a great arm to come out of the bullpen. He's always ready. I mean, I swear there wasn't a game where he wasn't warming up. He is always warming up to go into the game. If he gets in or not is a different story, but he is always ready, and he was electric out of the bullpen last year.
Gabe, why did he drop down to his current arm slot? Do you know?
Yeah, so he was doing PFP practice with the Phillies in their minor league system, and he was struggling up here. They're gonna cut him, but the pitching development coach saw that. He's like, "Why don't you just naturally throw from here now? Just practice it."
A legend
Love
was
it.
born that day.
Yes,
And
it
who
Thank
was.
knew?
you, thank you,
And
Phillies.
now Hobie's living in Milwaukee with a couple million in his pocket. I think the big shocker for me, the one that got done today, was Willie Adames. $12.25 million for Willie, which I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I think that's a steal.
Yeah, like you said, I didn't expect this to be settled. I'm glad it was so that we did not have to go through potentially what we went through last year with Corbin, where both parties are frustrated with one another. But I think this is a good price for the Brewers, and Willie got some money, so kudos to them for getting it done.
And Willie genuinely likes being here too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
he loves
100%.
the community. He loves who he's playing with. He is your cornerstone like shortstop for your future. I personally believe he's a Gold Glove defender. He strikes out a lot, but I do still think there's a lot of life left in this bat. I mean, we've seen it in the past, and some small minor adjustments, and I feel like he could be just back on that pace going
Yeah,
forward.
he had a down year last year, and he still hit what, 24
Down.
home runs? Yeah,
And it
people
was
consider
very
it. Yeah,
down. It was a very down year, but he still was a plus contributor to the Brewers, even on the defensive side of the ball.
Should
You
have got a
know,
Gold Glove.
Yep.
Yeah, contact wise, he wasn't Willie last year.
no.
No,
But his attitude and his effort alone, that's $12 million to me. Like I thought his
invaluable.
settlement was going to be closer to that 15 to 16 range. So the fact that he settled, it speaks volumes to what the Brewers got going. And it talks, I think it shows that he really likes Pat Murphy too. Like he's excited to play for him.
I hope that since he settled, they can continue to talk long term, because that's something that goes under the radar with arbitration cases, is that if you don't settle, you're just not talking with the team. And like having him under contract before the arbitration cases is huge to get into that extension talks.
Yeah,
Even if it's
we
3, 4, 5 years, like I'm okay swallowing that. Like I'm not gonna give him a Xander Bogaerts mega deal that the Padres pulled out of their left pocket for God knows why, but I'll give him some sort of like middle of the line
I
deal
mean,
extension to keep him in
for
Milwaukee.
4 years put you right in place for, say, an Eric Brown Jr. or a Cooper Pratt to take over the reins. I mean, we got a lot of middle infielders that if we get Willie to sign for like a short long-term deal, we have guys coming up in the system that can come in and take that spot once he's out.
Oh, for sure. And then the last one that got done today, Jake Bowers, 1.35 million.
Him.
I guess we'll see what he is with the Brewers. I know Yankees fans were excited to get rid of him, but I think he could be a piece for the Brewers.
Should be interesting seeing him next year in Brewers pinstripes, hopefully.
All right, Yankees
this
fans
week's-
excited to get rid of everyone.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
But this week's
yeah.
Brewers prospect to watch, what do we got?
We have Jacob Mizorowski. He was the Brewers 2022 second round pick out of Crowder College, a junior college. Brewers love going after junior college arms, being able to just get their hands on them and being able to mold them to what they want out of a typical Brewer starter. So he, as of right now, is the pipeline number 3 prospect for the Brewers for 2023. I do see him climbing slightly because of his ability to just keep growing as a prospect. He has a 70 grade fastball. I could see that jumping up to possibly 75, 80 because he does routinely touch 100 as he did in the Futures game. He also has a 70 grade slider that he pairs well with his 70 grade fastball that just jumps right out of his hand. He pairs that with a 55 grade curveball and cutter, and then a 45 grade changeup. As he grows and develops, I see him just expanding on those pitches. But honestly, he can get away with his fastball slider if he really needs to. He's a 55 grade overall as a prospect. And joining our prospect of the week last week, he was co-pitcher of the year in the Brewers system. So him being able to make those big strides as a pitcher was huge. He jumped 3 whole levels of minor league baseball. He started in A Carolina, where he pitched 26 innings, struck out 46 guys. He strikes out a lot of guys, and he has the electric stuff to do that time in and time out. And then he jumped to Appleton and Biloxi, and again, big strikeout numbers. He did struggle in Biloxi, but that's to be understood as a guy who's shooting up the boards and shooting up systems. There's gonna be growing pains as he's a younger guy, so it's definitely understood.
I mean,
What are your
yeah.
guys' thoughts on him?
Speaking of big strikeouts, you never mentioned his future game outing where he struck out all three of his outs were strikeouts. Huge strikeout guy. Another thing about Mizrowski, we did lure him away from LSU, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he
believe
was
that's
supposed to
correct,
be a
yeah.
part of this past LSU
Yeah.
team that won the championship.
So just electric arm. I mean, there's not much else to say. We kind of covered it. Huge strikeouts, big arm, not a lot of control, but
Tall
classic.
dude.
What is he, 6'7"?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a behemoth, lanky
Yeah.
guy.
I
Gets
think
down
the
the
one
mound.
thing, like with all the videos I've seen from guys like Kurt Hogg and all these minor league Twitter accounts, is how electric his fastball is. It's really awesome to watch.
Oh,
Gets it up in the zone,
absolutely.
it plays up there. Think he'll be up here sooner than later, the big league team.
Yeah, I could see him taking that path they usually do where he starts in the pen and then ends up
Yeah.
in the rotation the next year. He's destined to be a starter.
Yeah.
He's
Destined to be a
got the
starter.
stuff.
Slight reliever risk, I do have to say, because of the control factor behind it and him not developing those pitches yet. But if there's one thing the Brewers know how to do, I mean, that's develop pitching.
Yep.
Yeah.
Worst comes to worst, what happens? He becomes your closer because in the futures game that Gabe mentioned, he threw 12 fastballs in that game, struck out 3 guys. His slowest and only fastball that was under 100 was 98.8. So it's not like if this guy was to only be brought out for one inning every handful of games as your main closer. Yes, that would hurt that he wouldn't be starting, but I can live with him being at the back end of games. Worst
If
comes to worst if he can't figure out the rest of the aspects, which I fully expect him to do.
if his worst case scenario is hanging out with Abner Uribe in the back end of the bullpen, I think we're still doing all right.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of similar to Hader. He was a starting pitcher coming up the ropes, and he really couldn't. I'd hope that Mizrowski isn't like Hader because I want him to be a starter, like you guys all do. But Hader couldn't develop those secondary pitches, and he's a lights out closer now. I don't want
Absolutely.
Mizrowski to be that because I think he can be a really successful starting pitcher in the major leagues, but that's worst case scenario with him.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to some other guys. So Wisconsin basketball sitting atop the Big Ten standings by themselves, the only undefeated team in the conference. A really nice come from behind road win last night at Ohio State against Ohio State team that had been playing really well and have been shooting the ball really well. In the first half, Storr dominated like usual. 15 points on 7 of 11 shooting. He just did his thing. Only 2 points in the second half, but Klesmit with 18 in the second half. And he came in ice cold from three. I think at one point they said he's 2 for his last 10. And literally they said that and he hit back to back. And just he took over. I think
Shout,
Chucky
shout out to
called him
Stephen Kroll for
yeah.
battling through an injury. He didn't play as well as he could have, but he battled through that injury and gave us some good minutes last night.
Chucky called Klesmit a cold-blooded killer. So, but from all the stories I've heard from around here is that's who Klesmit is. He just wants to ball. He's a super competitive dude. In this team, I mean, they're legit contenders for the Big Ten title. They played a grind 'em out game with Ohio State last night. They played games in the 70s. They played 3 straight games in the 80s. Like, this is one of the deepest teams I've seen since that 2015 Final Four team. And they're just fun to watch. Saturday, I know many people think Northwestern basketball, they don't think much of it, but that's the team in second place. You beat them, you put almost everyone in the conference, except I believe Minnesota, at 2
Mhm.
losses. You're in a great spot to run away and hide.
They're top 10 in Ken Palm offensive efficiency, right?
Yep.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
Wisconsin Badgers basketball team
Yeah,
is.
that
Fun to
that
watch
is
Wisconsin
crazy.
basketball team.
That is nuts to hear that a Greg Gard team is top 10 in Ken Palm offensive rankings.
Joe
Greg
Lenardi
Gard.
currently has him as a 2 seed right now. Granted, it's only
Yeah.
January, but I think that's what they could be this year. I could see it happening.
Like you're up on the 2 line, that's a pretty good spot. Like you've almost secured your tournament berth already at this point.
hmm
As long as they don't just like lose out, but they're
So I mean, they got blown out by Arizona, but they were still at 1 point per possession against Arizona, which nobody had been there.
And their
against them.
team defense is making strides this year too.
Yeah.
A lot of improvement from game to game with the defensive end.
They're a lot of fun to watch. But staying in college sports, the GOAT retired, Nick Saban, the GOAT of college football. Listen to these numbers, and this is just some of them I pulled from Fox Sports. 7 national titles, 11-1 in SEC championship games, 292 career wins, 16 10-plus win seasons, and winning percentage of 84.7%. He never had a losing season as a head coach, and he won a national title in 3 different decades.
Wow.
Unreal.
Greatest of all time. I never thought in my lifetime I'd see a different coach coaching Alabama, but here we are. Reality has kicked in.
Me too. People were leaving like stuff at his statue down in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah,
It
they're
was
leaving.
pretty entertaining seeing some of the stuff they're leaving behind.
Yeah.
You would think he died. Like,
I mean,
that's
He did. He did for some of those
For-
people. Some of their joy is like
That's-
what they do. Their religion is Alabama football, and he is the savior of that religion. And
like
wow,
he
There's no
spent
pros-
12
there's no
hours with Miss
proteins.
Terry last night, and she sent him back to work this morning. So let's see how our retirement goes.
Roll
there's
Tide.
no pro team in Alabama. I mean, of course, Alabama football is their
They
pride
got
and
the Montgomery Biscuits.
That's not pro. That's no. I mean, yeah, Alabama also has Auburn too, but no one gives a damn about Auburn. So
good catch.
thank you.
Kid friendly on this program.
Extremely kid friendly.
But Saban has changed Tuscaloosa completely, right, Cal?
You hear this a lot in March with the Cinderella teams making a run, but the Flutie effect. When he arrived on campus in 2007, the enrollment jumped up from 25,000 to 40,000. And before Saban took over, a lot of the student body was from in-state. Now it's all out of state. Out of state tuition at Alabama is expensive. So they are swimming in that out of state tuition now. Nick Saban is the greatest investment that Alabama will ever make in that school's history.
So the question is, who's going to be the guy after the guy? Like,
It's a tough act to follow.
Yes.
That is a real tough
Big
act to
shoes
follow.
to fill.
unless you come in and win a national title in year 1, you're going to be considered a quote unquote failure at Alabama. Like, I mean, I've got some names that are interesting to me, like Kalen DeBoer, Washington's coach. They're losing a ton, and he is an unbelievable coach. Mike Norvell at Florida State, what he's done with that program has been nothing short of amazing, bringing them back to prominence. Glenn Schumann, who's the defensive coordinator, I believe at Georgia, unbelievable scheme guy, but that's not what Alabama fans are looking for. And then the last guy I got on my list, and it's a little bit, I think, of a joke to Alabama fans, is Dabo. But I
I'm
think
not
the
touching
game is
Dabo with a 10-foot pole.
If
I
this
think the
happened 3
game
years
is passing
ago, yeah.
Dabo
Yep.
by.
Yep.
So
Honestly, the one name that I probably could see is Kalen DeBoer. Get out of Big Ten play while you can with a depleted roster, because it was really this 1 year for Washington, and Bama has a lot more to offer than Seattle, Washington.
yeah,
What
it's
about
gonna
a
be
guy like
interesting who they
Lane
hire.
Kiffin?
I
Could
don't
Kiffin
see
potentially?
Kiffin leaving Ole Miss
I don't see him leaving.
I
because
don't either,
that
but-
roster that roster he's built there for next year is like they should be national championship contenders.
That's kind of a reason why I see it hard for Norvell to leave Florida State. Just like everything he's gone through this year, just getting them undefeated to just miss out on the playoffs. I feel like he wants to stay at Florida State to
I don't
take them
know.
to the
College
promised land.
football coaches have absolutely no shame, and they are
No,
out to
the-
take a bag and get it wherever they can.
The way he would talk to the press after getting snubbed sounded like he was Florida State ride or die for at least the next couple of years.
You got to think all these coaches are really thinking about, do I want to be the guy after the guy? Like, usually a job like this, you'd hear a million dudes being like, oh, yeah,
I want that.
I want that. Like, even before Wisconsin hired Fickle last year, you saw a whole bunch of names that were coming up. Like, I feel like the names that are coming up are all represented, and you guys are finding this interesting, by the same agent, Jimmy Sexton. He is the Scott Boras of college football. He is the agent for 11 of the 14 SEC coaches
Jeez.
and 7 NFL coaches.
Yeah,
I saw
man's
it-
making
I saw a
bank.
tweet yesterday. It had a list of potential candidates and all their buyouts, and then like 5 minutes later, the author of the tweet replaced it with and put James Franklin in there, who
Yeah.
wasn't on there originally, which would be hilarious because Franklin's agent's moving quick, and if Alabama hired James Franklin, there would be riots in Tuscaloosa.
I'm pretty sure he's represented by Jimmy Saxton too.
Okay.
Or Sexton too. In like a lot of dudes in college football. I think Sarkisian is one other guy. Like, he is the guy of college football.
Jeez.
And from what I've seen, it's pretty much like this is Jimmy Sexton's job to choose which one of his candidates gets it. Like, it's one of those situations. Like, he was at Alabama today. There's video of him walking into the building. So I think we know from his tree someone's getting that job. Moving on to some other jobs, the NFL's got 7 openings: Titans, Falcons, Raiders, Chargers, Seahawks, Patriots, and Commanders. I got to imagine the best job on this list. To me, it's the Seahawks.
I
You
think
got a
it's a
running
tie
game.
between
You
Seahawks
got
and the Falcons.
3 receivers. You got a decent line. Like, that's a pretty interesting job.
Yeah, the Seahawks and Falcons definitely have good foundations for whoever has the ability to come in and start moving weight. And with the Falcons, use the position players that were drafted high.
They're a
It's
quarterback away.
Oh,
I think
for
so
sure.
too.
I would love if Fields went to Atlanta. I don't know what the Bears are doing this offseason. Seems like no one really knows, but
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know why, but seeing like Kirk Cousins on that Falcons team, because like he's a name that people are throwing out. That would be very interesting to see him with Pitts, London, Bijan. I don't see him leaving Minnesota, but I also could see Minnesota leaving him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think the least desirable job is probably the Patriots.
I think the Commanders is a pretty undesirable job, but I could see them just taking Bieniemy and making him head coach.
Well, so here's where I'm at. I think the Falcons are going to hire Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. I think the Chargers are going to hire Harbaugh. I could see Kalen DeBoer talking to the Seahawks, but it sounds like Dan Quinn is their guy.
Yeah, I've been seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Jared Mayo is the next in line for New England.
Okay, not Vrabel, huh?
I thought it was
No.
gonna be Vrabel too.
I saw a report that it's basically Jared Mayo right now.
Yeah, I did see that as well. But
Interesting.
And I think the Raiders should just stick with Pierce.
If they don't sign Antonio Pierce. There's something wrong with Al Davis. I'm gonna be
That'll be their
brutally
second
honest.
one that they've punted on. Yeah, Bisaccia has been kind of a disaster in Green Bay as for sure this year, but like he was liked within the building. So the Raiders can't do like what they just did with Bisaccia and their last hire. Like that, it just doesn't make any sense.
It does feel like the Commanders are going to wait till they hire a GM before they hire a coach. So they may miss on some guys here.
I think the best fit is Vrabel to Atlanta.
And I have
Honestly,
no idea what the Titans are doing. Like it just seems weird.
it was such a weird firing with Vrabel.
Especially since they got Levis too in last year's draft, and he was actually starting to play like somewhat like decent towards the end of the season. It seemed like they would like pair those like Vrabel and Levis together and kind of be that next chapter in the Titans' history at the post Derrick Henry like era. But I guess if you want to put a new figurehead with Levis, go ahead. But it's just weird.
Like it feels like they're going to go offensive. But I don't know. I
And
just wouldn't like you don't get rid of a dude that was coach of the year 2 years ago, took you to an AFC championship game, had you in the playoffs every year but this year, and you let him go. Like clearly somebody in the building didn't like that Vrabel was the biggest name there.
Just a couple head scratchers, that's for sure.
On to some more positive news. The Packers back in the playoffs. The defense showed out for again. Good job doing your job, Barry. And the offense, frankly, can move the ball all they want. They just stop themselves. So that could have easily been a blowout. But look, in the NFL, it doesn't matter how you win, you just win. And we said that last week. So now a date to play Big Mike and the Cowboys in Dallas.
Yeah, if I'm Dallas, I'm pretty worried about this game. I think Packers are one of the hottest teams in football. Like you said earlier, they're moving the football. Defense is showing up. And the Packers, I mean, Jordan Love's playing at a high level. Receivers, top to bottom in that room. Everyone's been balling out from Romeo Dobbs all the way down to Bo Melton, per se.
always
And
open Melton.
you just know Aaron Jones is going to run the ball down the Cowboys' throat. He always does. He's going to rush for at least 125. And Packers have never lost at Jerry's World. They're 5-0. I believe they're currently 5-0 there. But of course, the one thing that's worrying me about this game is the defense. Cowboys have an electric offense, so we'll see what the game plan is on the defensive end, but Packers got to get healthy. I know Jair is currently day-to-day for tripping on someone's ankle, so
I
we'll see.
saw an interesting stat that Jordan Love's QB rating inside is 122.1 and outside it's 91.3.
Both
Granted,
elite.
obviously the sample size is different, but he's clearly not scared of playing in a dome.
No, and he's starting to look like that dude throwing the football. Like he is throwing the ball from all different angles, back foot, front foot. Like he's settling and letting it rip left and right. And something that like I know we all wanted to see is can he be that dude? And I think he is that dude for sure, like we've already established. But now he's passing the eye test. He is passing the national eye test, which I feel like is very positive, at least for skeptical Green Bay fans going forward who came into the season trying to find reasons to hate him. That is the main thing I have gathered from if you're a Jordan Love hater, you did not give him the benefit of the doubt. You did not let him just play his game. It was 100%. I came into this season to prove everyone else wrong and to prove the entire Packers front office wrong. And yet, what has Jordan Love and that Packers offense done as the years gone on? Prove all the doubters wrong. And I am loving it.
The thing that I liked on Sunday was the way that the Packers controlled the ball. They played a playoff style offense in week 18, running it down the other team's throat as much as you possibly can and then using the pass game off of that instead of using the pass game to then countering it with the run. You have to counter the run with the pass, and they played it perfectly. And I know we love to hate on Joe Barry, but the one thing he finally did this week, make adjustments at halftime. He did something that we've been asking him for 18 weeks, is to make adjustments mid-game, and they stopped that Bears offense with ease at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's really weird to me how against good quarterbacks, Barry is actually solid against Mahomes. Cousins, for the most part. I mean, Cousins going to get hit.
Except Jefferson getting guarded by the greatest quarterback in NFL history, Preston Smith.
Like, when Barry needs to, he can put together a nice game plan. That does not mean I want him around next year.
No.
Like, you can't lose to Tommy DeVito.
No.
Like,
Can't lose to the Falcons.
the Packers could have easily been going to Detroit this week if they beat the Falcons, the Giants, and the Bucks.
Raiders too. Earlier
And the
on in the
Raiders.
year.
Like, this is easily could have been a first place
Broncos.
football team. I'll give the Broncos one a little bit of a pass because that team was on
Yeah, they were.
that defense is legit.
Yeah, but they didn't look the greatest in the game against the Packers, if I remember.
No, but they did enough, and
That's
at
all
that point in the year, the Packers weren't doing enough on offense.
It's the NFL. Do enough
Yep.
to win.
Yep.
Yeah, this isn't college. Style points don't matter.
Nope.
So, Gabe,
Win's a
you
win's
end
a
the pick'em standings with a record of 52-24. Any
Wow.
words for the victor?
Just really looking at the games, knowing who's gonna win. I saw the future in week 17. That's really what propelled me to
This
top
was
of the
eyewash.
standings. All I gotta say is that I know ball, and the bottom dwellers of Cal and Jacob don't know ball.
Wow.
Thank you.
How
I
about
know
that next year?
football.
Yes.
Still do not take this as gambling advice because
No. I would
we
never
don't want you to
gamble.
lose. You losing money is not on our conscience.
Yep. You make your own bad decisions, please.
If you take our pick'ems and you put in a parlay and you lose again, that is yo bad.
So, Texans, Browns, the Deshaun Watson Bowl without Deshaun Watson. Like, the NFL scriptwriters are doing well here.
I think they went batted 100 on this week's script writing. That is for darn sure. It is impressive, the slate of games that we have for Wild Card Weekend. I'm thoroughly impressed.
Super wild card weekend.
Super Wild Card
It's
Weekend.
Super wild card weekend. We have a game on Monday.
That's on me. That is on me. That's on me.
So with that, Jacob, you have the Texans shocking the world,
Yes.
allegedly, at home. So that's interesting that they will shock the world at their own
Yep.
dome.
I feel like CJ Stroud's legit, and the Texans are going to do enough to stop Joe Flacco. I think it's going to be a very grounded out game, but I think the Texans just edge it out slightly with the backing of the home crowd.
This feels like a game where one stop's going to win it, and I think the Browns get that stop because that defense is relentless.
My big thing is that the Texans probably shouldn't have won last week. They should be Colts Browns, but that's a sour note to watch that ending in Colts Texans. And I think the Browns have been a better football team this year than the Texans, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And the Browns defense is just that good that they will stop that offense, a depleted offense that the Texans have. Because if you stop Nico Collins, you stop the Texans offense now. Because there's no Tank Dell, no Noah Brown.
If the Texans were healthy, I would take them in a heartbeat in this game.
Oh, 100%. But their offense is so depleted. It's just hard to not take the defensive powerhouse of the Cleveland Browns, which is weird to say.
So Chiefs Dolphins in a game that they're saying could be -30 wind chill. And Gabe's still sticking with the Dolphins.
Bold.
But Cal, why are
My
the Chiefs going to win?
I think it's simply going to come down to the fact that Miami on the road isn't great, and the fact that they're playing in negative degrees in Kansas City. I don't think they're built for that. Chiefs, I think they're going to get the ball. I think Kelsey's going to have a big game. It's been a while for him, but Mahomes been there, done that. Veteran team's going to come out on top, I think, but it'll be interesting to see what Kansas City's receiving core outside of Kelsey can do for Mahomes this weekend.
I agree with Cal. I think the Chiefs just run the ball down the Dolphins' throat and just ground and pound their way to victory because the Dolphins are just going to come out. I think flat. I think the cold's going to get to them. It's impossible to replicate the cold especially when you've been practicing in 70 to 90 degrees all season. It's hard to bounce back and come out and play in that type of environment.
I honestly don't really have any rhyme or reason why I have the Dolphins winning. I just saw Micah Parsons on his podcast say that he has the Dolphins winning, so I'm riding with the NFL player Micah Parsons.
Mike McDaniel's all-time vibes guy, so I can get behind that.
Huge
Can
vibes
we-
guy.
Can we just say how dog water it is that this game is on Peacock?
Awful.
Like,
Shreenius is gonna put up numbers that day.
I mean, I have Peacock, so like
Yeah.
it's different
Oh,
for me.
okay.
So like,
I do too, but like Bucks Eagles would have been a much better Peacock game. Like hide it from the world.
No. That's the Monday night game. That's the perfect Monday night game.
I mean,
jeez.
we might. All right, let's. Cal, you got the Eagles in that one.
You know,
the
I
rest of us
really-
riding with the Bucks.
I really want to pick against the Eagles, but I don't know. Something in my mind's telling me Baker's gonna have well, I don't even think he practiced. I don't think he practiced today, but something's telling me that Baker's not gonna get it done, which just sucks because I love Baker, but this is just gut feeling for me.
I just think the Eagles are limping too much into this game. And the Buccaneers literally have nothing to lose because they're the typical NFC South team where they just barely get in, and now it's like, oh, we'll win. Like, we'll find a
Well,
way.
when you put it that way, I mean, you might as well just win one or two. You know, it's like
Right.
just kind of.
I feel like
we're-
the Eagles are in that SpongeBob episode. No, let them have it. No,
Okay, you can have
You
it.
can have it.
You know what? Shout out Jordan Love for winning Week 18 MVP.
Yep.
While we're on the topic of SpongeBob,
MVP.
Elite Award.
Yeah, I agree with AJ. The Eagles are limping in physically and mentally with Sirianni. I still think he's a clown. So
He's a tough guy.
yeah, tough guy. Okay, bud.
That's why he needed a bodyguard on an NFL sideline.
Well, yes, because when he keeps running his mouth, someone might actually want to do something to him. Then he can hide behind his 6'4", 200, who gives a
200.
boot. Yeah,
Big
I'll
Dom
be
was like
nice.
350, bro.
Big Dom's a big dude. All right, you can hide behind Big Dom. I'm just saying, Sirianni's a hider. That's
Okay.
what I would say.
Okay.
So, to me, I think the second best game of the weekend is going to be Lions-Rams. As evident by our picks, because we don't even know where this one's going.
Thank you, script writers.
Yeah. Like,
Oh yeah.
this is a much more even matchup than I think people realize. I'm picking the Lions simply because they're at home.
I am too. Just because it's
But-
their first home playoff game and how long, I think that place is going to rock. Because I think ticket prices are almost double that game than like anywhere else, like for the playoff slate. So that place is going to be rocking.
Yeah, I've been high on the Rams all year, so I'm just gonna keep being high on the Rams. I've been high on the Rams, low on the Lions. So like it it is probably the best game, but for me, as someone who's not as high on the Lions as a lot of other people are, I think the Rams. Stafford is they're in a dome, so like it's honestly mute to anything, and Stafford's used to playing at Ford Field, so I could see it going
It's
the Rams.
$400 for a ticket. To put that in comparison, tickets for the Cowboys Packers game is going for $77.
And that's in Jerry's world.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I will say a little bit of a boo to the Lions. They are raising their season ticket prices by anywhere between like 15 and 81%, depending on where you
Jeez.
sit in the stadium. So
Just
yeah,
Just
it's
because
a
you're
little bit
good
of a
doesn't mean you can raise your ticket prices. That's
Now they got
dumb.
people actually in the seats not watching two and who gives a poop football teams or wearing you don't have anyone wearing paper bags in your stands. So now you decide to raise ticket prices.
Did you see Lions fans are trying to do a Matthew Stafford jersey ban?
yes.
That guy gave the city of Detroit nothing but love, and that's what you do to him.
I mean, Calvin doesn't get his receiving yards without Matthew
Exactly.
Stafford.
Thought you were talking about me for a second.
Similarities.
Yes, I
Oh.
forgot that you're Megatron, bro.
Something like that.
Bills Steelers. I don't know. Like this game could be just disgusting. The Steelers defense is solid, so you know that Josh Allen's going to give at least one to him. But I still think the Bills win.
Is
Just
TJ
'cause
playing
they're at
this
home?
weekend?
I have no idea. I don't think he is.
Because if he's not playing, I really don't think it's. I mean, it'll be a
TJ
close
Watt's not
game.
playing.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is like an MVP type of guy that you're missing out on that defensive side. So
But
I feel like the Steelers are gonna hurt more than people think.
their other edge rusher is good. Highsmith, I think his name is Alex Highsmith. Is that?
Highsmith and Nick
Yeah.
Herbig.
Yeah,
Former,
Nick Herbig.
former Badger Nick Herbig.
shout out.
Getting
But, like,
after it.
I don't know. Just watching Josh Allen play this year, I could see it both ways. I mean, that second pick, just watching that video over and over again is hilarious.
Hey, that man and Brees Hall won me a fantasy championship, so those two will be my keepers for next year.
Brees Hall's a good keeper.
We're riding and dying with those two. Because even though Josh Allen's going to throw a pick, he's also going to score 3-4 touchdowns somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
true.
And finally, the game that matters most to this podcast, Cowboys Packers. In a sense, we are all taking the Packers, but Cal
Yes.
needs to ride his reverse psychology that he's rode for 6 weeks and keep it up.
It's been working so far.
Gotta keep it going. Good vibes.
Like Gabe mentioned, the Packers need to run the football. I heard someone on the radio today say that they need to have the same defensive game plan like they did against the Bears, where they played man coverage.
No.
There's more than just CeeDee Lamb on that Cowboys receiving core.
Either way, CeeDee Lamb's gonna pick apart Carrington Valentine or whoever is across from him if it's not Jair. Because, like, I mean, even with Jair, CeeDee Lamb has just been so good this year.
It does feel like a game though where it's like, okay, CD can get his, but nobody else. Like if CD breaks the receiving record and the Packers win 24-22, you still won, you still move on, and in 2 weeks nobody really cares what CD Lamb just did.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, the biggest X factor, and speaking from a fantasy football manager's perspective, is Tony Pollard. That first, before I say anything, that was the worst pick I've ever made in fantasy football. Tony Pollard was the biggest bust on my team. But sadly, fantasy is over. So obviously that means Tony Pollard is due to break out. But if they can contain the run, I feel like they will have a good shot.
I think they're
Absolutely.
going to do offensively the same game plan they had against like Hutchinson, where they throw both tight ends on the same side as Parsons.
And Musgrave being
basically,
healthy is huge.
That is huge.
Yeah. It's gonna be a grind them out, stressed out the whole time. Hopefully the Packers win, but either way, this has been a successful season for the Packers.
Oh,
every game's
100%.
been like that except the Vikings game. And even then, it was still a little stressful.
I think Kraft and Musgrave have big games this weekend. I don't know why. I have that feeling that those guys are really going to be big targets for Love, and they're going to be his safety blanket. So I really think that is going to be those two are the X factors on the offensive side of the ball, for the Packers.
We got some breaking news coming in, Cal. What do we got?
Per John Heyman, Corbin Burns and the Brewers agree at 15,637,500.
Is that less than he got last year?
I think so. I want to say he got like 17 last year.
I mean, he did pitch worse this year than he did the year before.
Do you think
If we're all being real,
Do you think they called him that this year again?
Oh, 100%.
But
Maybe he came into
reality,
the hearing knowing that he was going to get lowballed, so he just kind of accepted it at this point.
He only had 10 million last year.
Oh, really?
Oh, so he got more. Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm glad that one's done before an arbitration hearing because that's when things get messy.
Yeah.
Yep.
We saw that firsthand last year.
Yep.
So
So
now
who's
I think
left? It's
Payams.
Devin.
Yep.
I think Devin drags it out. Devin's like that.
It's so hard to relievers don't do well in arbitration. We saw that with Hader. They're not the greatest at getting their arbitration cases. So I mean they can go.
There's no
I'm
value in the
pro
one inning
deal
guys.
Payams. I am pro deal Payams while he has his value because of just how many just electric arms the Brewers have in that bullpen. I don't think he's a difference maker, but I don't think he's an X factor with the sheer number of arms that the Brewers have at the back end of that bullpen.
And we saw at the end of last year when he was getting past his innings, like the most innings he's pitched in a year, he kind of came back down to reality a little bit. So
yeah,
he was electric April through July, but August, September kind of went downhill after that.
You know, the more we sell high on
hearings,
that, no, you go, you're good.
We've seen these arbitration hearings that like relievers don't get theirs. So I'm very curious what Devin ends up getting. Payams, I don't know what he's looking for, but it's not.
I hope a new home.
The thing with I'm kind of on board with Jacob now. The more we keep selling high on that Josh Hader deal, the better it looks for the Brewers because we already got William Contreras and Joel. Adding more from Joel would make that deal look even 10 times better.
Just for Ruiz, that small piece now has turned into like that big tree, like the JJ Hardy deal, the lore behind tree. The lore behind the JJ Hardy deal.
It would make that
JJ Hardy Hauser trade.
Yeah. Let's go.
It's still alive.
Well, technically, wouldn't it stay alive with the Payams deal too? Because of Hader was a part of that trade.
I think so.
So
yeah, this tree is going to keep on growing.
Long live JJ Hardy,
Brewers legend.
Absolutely.
We love our Brewers legends.
So I think that's all we got for today. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, hit us up on TikTok and Instagram. Obviously, follow us on X. Hit that follow button on X and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Hey, big week for the Pack. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, baby.
Go Pack.
Peace.